Hey folks, thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Chad Goodman. I'm an orchestral conductor, currently serving as the conducting fellow of the New World Symphony and as an assistant conductor to the San Francisco Symphony. I am so excited about the guests we have on the show today, who happen to be two really wonderful friends who have jobs performing in New York City. My guests are Ryan Roberts, the English horn player of the New York Philharmonic, and Hugo Valverde, who's the second horn player with the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra. Hugo, Ryan, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, real quick, where are you guys right now at the moment? Hugo, where are you?
I'm in my home country, in Costa Rica, in my house.
You're in Costa Rica, back with the family.
Back with the family, back in the tropics.
Oh my gosh, I bet it's very toasty down there right now.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's about to rain. Hopefully the rain will let us have a nice talk, but I don't see a problem right now. But yeah, it's great. It's great to be here with you guys today.
Yeah, great. And Rye, where are you?
I'm actually also with my family. I'm in Santa Monica, California. Not quite as tropical, but the weather is still beautiful. And yeah, it's nice to be settled in one place for now.
Absolutely. Good. Well, I thought as sort of a fun way for people who are listening and checking this out to get to know each of you, if you could like sum yourselves up in like a combination of maybe 2 or 3 pieces of music, what would they be? That's kind of tricky. Hugo, do you have an answer for that?
2 or 3 pieces of music. Wow. Well, I mean, the first one that comes to mind is, oh boy, Mahler 2. I think it's always, like a lot of things going on. Second piece, Glier Horn Concerto. And third piece, La Fanciulla del West by Puccini. I mean, it's I don't know, but those are the 3 pieces that come to mind. I mean,
I love it. So much bravura in that.
Pieces very much because they mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
3 pieces. Yeah.
Great. Love it. Rye, what about you?
I was thinking about this earlier today, and it's a very tough question. I could only really think of 2 that felt right, and they are both the first symphonies of Barber and Sibelius. And I think, I mean, both of them are early works for the composers, and Barber's American, which I guess describes me in a certain kind of way. But I think that they have a very large emotional span and depth, and there's definitely some very sensitive moments, which I would apply to my personality, but also a lot of excitement and upbeat sections. So those would be my 2 selections.
I love it. The Barber's First Symphony, I was not aware of until 2 years ago, and now I name that as one of my favorite symphonies of all time. It's so beautiful, so beautiful. Great. So yeah, before we sort of jump into the deep end of things and talking about your jobs and the auditions and things like that, I thought it would be nice to go through like a quick rapid fire, short answers kind of round as well with some questions. Hopefully most will be easy. Some you still might have to think about. But off the top of your head, just at this current moment even, favorite composer? Hugo, what do we got?
Mozart.
Mozart. Right. What about you, Ryan?
Rachmaninoff.
Rachmaninoff. Fantastic. For me, Sibelius. I've been in this Sibelius kick for several years now. He was someone I never quite understood. And then I listened to all of his symphonies in a week, and that does things to your brain. And you sort of, I feel like you have to get used to the way time moves and flows in Sibelius, and that there'll be these tangential kind of moments, things that just sort of, you're rambling, you're stumbling around, and then there's this beautiful event, and then you get lost kind of again. But ever since I sort of had this revelation, for me, it's been Sibelius whenever people ask that question. And it's really hard to ask, and of course it might change over time. Great. So how about your favorite solo for your instruments, and Ryan, you can do oboe as well as English horn if you want.
All right.
From the orchestral operatic ballet repertoires, whatever it is, just if you had to pick one, your favorite solo.
My favorite solo would have to be actually Sibelius's Swan of Tuonela from the Lemminkainen suite. It's sort of the holy grail of English horn solos. Maybe not quite as well known as Dvorak 9 or Symphony Fantastique or something like that, but it is one of our longest and most complex and just absolutely beautiful solos. So I'd choose that.
Yeah, great.
Favorite, or well, only one, or I mean, oh boy, I love the solo from Ford Last Songs. I mean, it's just
Oh,
it's short but very straight to the point. Like it really hits you in the heart when you hear it, especially because you have a soprano, in the piece, and it's just amazing to hear the soprano and then the horn. It's just amazing, the like collaboration of that, and yeah, that is the one that always gets me. That one, it's very
beautiful.
special. Yeah.
Beautiful choice. I love that. So what about some music maybe that you've listened to in the last couple days? Doesn't have to be classical, but I'm just curious, what are you guys listening to right now?
Yeah, I mean, I love this group, Costa Rican group that I admire very much. The name is Malpais. They got the name from a beach that is called Malpais, and it's just a combination of a lot of Latin rhythms, Latin, like heritage added to the group. The meters that they use there, I mean, they're so complex, and that's what I like from that group, Malpais.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Hugo, that's so funny. That's so funny that you say that, because my family and I have actually been going to Costa Rica for around 12 years, and we always go to Malpais.
No kidding.
Yeah, I swear to God, I've been there probably 10 times in my life.
Oh, look at that. What a coincidence. I mean, it's a beautiful place. And now that you say that, I mean, you can give testimony of that place. It's just amazing.
Yes, it is incredible. Very beautiful.
Wow.
Great. Last question in this quick round. If you were going to impress someone with something you're cooking, your go-to meal, what is it? Hugo.
Lasagna.
Lasagna.
Oh, yeah. Chicken lasagna.
Sounds good. What about you, Ryan?
Steak, asparagus, and potatoes.
I love it.
It's just about the only thing I know how to cook. So nobody would be impressed by anything else.
Great. So yeah, so now let's dig into more what you guys are doing now on a day-to-day basis, or where, let's say the last season or so. So Ryan, you are English horn player with New York Philharmonic, and this was your first season on the job, right?
Yes.
So can you tell us sort of a little bit about how you got this position, as in like where were you in maybe the year or two before that, and let's just start with that.
Yeah. So I finished my undergrad at Juilliard in 2018, and then I decided to join the New World Symphony when I graduated, which was an incredible experience. Even though I was there for a very short amount of time, I started New World in September of 2018, and by sort of March-ish of 2019, I had almost completely defected from New World, and I was busy with a lot of sub work. But then when the New York Phil audition happened, my trial period started basically immediately after the audition, and so I had to ask our wonderful music director MTT to release me from the rest of the season, which included a big tour to New York, actually, to Carnegie Hall. So it was kind of funny. I ended up playing my trial in New York while the New World Symphony was on tour in New York, playing in Carnegie. So it's kind of an interesting full circle moment. But yeah, that's how it all happened.
Amazing. And had you taken many professional auditions before? You said you were subbing with other orchestras. Had you done many auditions?
I began auditioning for oboe jobs in the last year of my undergrad, and I had a fair amount of success. I had taken, I think, around 3 or 4 auditions, and I had been in the finals for all of them, but none of them had been English horn auditions. And it was interesting. When I signed up for this audition, my mom actually kept on sort of probing me with these questions. So like, do you want to be an English hornist? Like, do you think that, you know, that's the path that you want your life to take? And I kept on saying, well, like, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Like, you know, who knows? I'm just going to take the audition. We'll cross that bridge. We'll cross that bridge. And then it actually happened. So it's kind of a funny situation, but yeah.
Wow. And what was the process? I'm sure a lot of people are going to be curious. Like New York Phil's, that's one of the greatest orchestras on the planet. So what is the audition process like? Did you have to apply and do a pre-screening first, or did you get invited to a round? Like, how does it work?
So for me specifically, well, I guess I'll first just start off by explaining how orchestral jobs work in a basic sense for those of our listeners that don't know. They're advertised like any other jobs in publications and websites, whatever. And when I saw the job advertised, I sent in my resume. And by that time, I had subbed with the Philharmonic on second oboe, I think once or twice. And so my resume was passed and I was invited for the live auditions. I started in the preliminary round. Other people whose resumes might not have had certain qualifications were required to make a tape, but I didn't have to. And then there was a very large preliminary round, and then there was a semifinal round, and the semifinal round also included oboe, because part of the job is playing a lot of oboe. And then there was a final round, and then a trial, and that was it. And I was the only one who received a trial, so it was kind of a smooth process after the audition.
That's incredible. And the post had been open for a while, right, with New York, with the Phil?
Yeah, my predecessor, Tom Stacy, retired, I believe, 9 years ago. And so they had held 2 previous auditions, which were not successful. And they had a lot of really, really, really incredible players over the years who were sort of, you know, short-term and also long-term subs. And you can hear them in a lot of recordings from the past, you know, the 9 years with the Philharmonic. And so it's been great to sort of join that lineage.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is. It's lineage. I mean, when we think about classical music and music history, the New York Philharmonic, there's a defined sound to the group, and there are so many traditions. That's what's so beautiful, I think, about our art form is the traditions that every orchestra carries. So what was your first week on the job? What was the repertoire you played? Did you play the season opening show, or what was that like?
So it was kind of a complicated situation. Basically, Jaap van Zweden, our music director, was not conducting any more weeks for the rest of the season that included English horn on the program. So initially, I was asked to just come in and play Ein Heldenleben with Semyon Bychkov conducting, but there was a sort of a last-minute change, and it turns out that Jaap actually was going to conduct Mahler 6, but it was, I think, maybe 5 days after the audition.
Okay.
And I was in Fort Worth subbing on English horn there, and so I got a call and they asked me if I wanted to come and do this week, you know, which was really soon. And I said, of course, yeah, I'll come and do it. Mahler 6 wasn't a huge English horn part, but then it also turned out that Jaap unfortunately injured his shoulder and had to pull out of that week of concerts. So it was kind of all for naught. I mean, I played the week, but it didn't count as or maybe it counted as, my first trial week or something. But they did have me come and play Heldenleben with Bychkov afterwards. And yeah, so I mean, my trial was sent to Jaap via a recording, but the rest of the committee was there and everyone was playing. So
incredible. And so, I mean, how do you balance with, like you said, it's an English horn position. You have to play oboe sometimes as well with it. How are you finding the balance of working on, just even oboe, practicing oboe alone versus English horn with an English horn position like this?
Well, it's an interesting question, and it's something that I think I'll be figuring out for the rest of my career, to be honest. But I, as I mentioned, I do get to play a lot of oboe in the Philharmonic, and in the past year, I've gotten to play actually some really good principal parts as well, as a sort of sub or a guest. We did Messiah. And everyone in the oboe section had just played it a million times, so they offered it to me. but I also got to do Brahms 3 with Bitchkov as well, which was sort of in between those 2 weeks. So when I have big projects going on, like, you know, a big principal part, then, you know, I'll play a lot of oboe, but
Yeah.
those are sort of very special occasions. On a week-to-week basis, I practice oboe for, you know, independent purposes, and I, you know, if maybe I'm doing a recording project or something, or working on some chamber music, then I'll prepare for that. But it's predominantly English horn.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess maybe my last question, I'm really curious, in your first season, full season with the orchestra, what was the highlight? Was there a highlight, one piece in particular, a moment that really stood out for you?
There were a few, I'll say two highlights.
Okay.
One of them was getting to play Dvorak 9 with Gustavo Dudamel, and also Mahler's Das Lied von der Erde the week afterwards. Dudamel came and we did, I think it was 5 concerts of Dvorak 9 and 3 concerts of Das Lied. And we also had a recording session with him in the meantime, and it was sort of just an incredible 2 weeks of music making. He really is one of my musical heroes, and also the music director of my hometown orchestra in LA. So that was very special. And also getting to play Symphonie Fantastique in, I think it was my 3rd week with the orchestra, with Yop. That was an experience that I will really never forget. It was probably the most nervous I've ever been for anything in my entire life, and yet also one of the most exhilarating and exciting musical experiences that I've had so far.
Wow. It's kind of wild that your first season, you know, there was so much heavy rep program that you would get to play these monsters, you know, of the English horn repertoire. It's, you know, I don't know how that was planned, but it's like really fortunate for you. And also, yeah, like you said, maybe adds a lot more pressure as well, but it's incredible.
Yeah. And I mean, I really had no idea how an English horn job was going to feel on a week-to-week basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with an orchestra that is as large as the New York Philharmonic, we play a lot of really big repertoire, and a lot of this stuff has the great English horn solos in it. And so even just looking at past seasons and future seasons, it's a much more involved job than I initially thought it would be. You know, there's not, you know, huge swaths of time off in between the weeks. It's pretty rapid fire in terms of the big solos week after week.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So Hugo, you were hanging out next door, and you're doing all your playing with the opera, with Metropolitan Opera. So can you tell us a little bit about, before winning your job, where were you? What were you doing before winning your job with the Met?
So right before I was in school, I was, you know, just finishing my first year of master's. I was also taking some auditions here and there. Mm-hmm. And actually 3 weeks before the Met, I took an audition. And yeah, it was just an experience that sort of got me, well, prepared me for that, for the Met audition. Yeah. But it was just, I would describe it as a very stressful time. You know, like nobody likes taking auditions. Auditions are not fun, but it's the only way to get into an orchestra. And, you know, like if you really want an orchestral job, you know, you have to be comfortable doing that. And while getting ready for the auditions, you know, like my teacher at Rice, Bill Vermeulen, was really helpful with that, especially with the mental game, because, you know, everyone talks about the playing part, like, you know, playing the excerpts here and there. But personally, I found it really hard to just believe that you were the best candidate that day. You know, like a lot of people say you need one day, you need that day, and hopefully the day is yours. But if you don't believe that in your mind, then you will be far from getting to the goal, right? But yeah, I mean, I was taking auditions here and there, and it was a 3-month preparation period. Yeah. Before the Met, you know, because I just never played an opera before joining the Met. You know, like when I said, oh, that would be cool. You know, I'm going to audition for the Met. Why not? And when I saw the list, I said, well, I know like 3 excerpts from this list. So it was a really I mean, a lot of specific things done in terms of learning the operas, listening to the excerpts with the Met, because I use the Met Opera on demand a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I basically listen to the operas every day and all day long, just to get a sense of what the Met did, how the Met horn section played the excerpts, just to play just as them. But yeah, I mean, it was a time that, I mean, I also learned a lot of things from my personality also, you know, like, because you not only improve as a musician, but you improve as an artist, as a person. um when you're really getting ready for something big, you know, like, a lot of people reach out, you know, like, they might offer their help. And that's also really nice to, you know, like, to be help, find help from people who want to, you know, help you succeed also. And yeah, I mean, that was the process before the audition.
That's great. And like you said, I think whenever I talk with people about what we do as classical musicians, I always um, it dawns on me that there aren't that many occupations anymore where it's based on having a mentor or people that you can reach out to, right? A lot of times, maybe you get a new job working in an office, you have to learn a new program. Maybe you don't know your spreadsheets. You can learn it over a weekend. That's what you do. You start your job. But we are fortunate enough that we have this lineage that we're a part of, that as soon as we start preparing for something or winning a job, that we are now part of this larger continuum. And I think that's what makes what we do even more powerful, is that we are always passing on what we learned onto it, you know, and hopefully we'll be passing it on to those who come after us. But it's super special. And I'm really glad to hear that you had people that were reaching out and willing to help with your preparations. Yeah, that's great. I'm curious,
Yeah.
do you have any pre-concert or pre-audition rituals? Is there something you do? Do you eat something in particular? Do you need to take a nap that day? Like, do you have anything, or is that not something that
Well,
crosses your mind?
it's totally fine when people have that. You know, to be
Yeah.
honest, for me, my audition preparation was to um, just be ready at whatever time, you know, like, to run a mock audition list in the morning, super early. Like, I remember doing mock auditions for friends when at like 6 a.m., you know, like, Skype, FaceTime. Hey, I'm gonna play some excerpts at 6 a.m. from my place. And there was one time I was preparing the excerpt, and I told my roommate, "Hey, is it okay if I do a mock audition at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning?" And she was like, "Sure, yeah, why not?" I mean, but then other times I went to school, so I left like at 5:30 in the morning. I mean, just some crazy ideas,
Mm-hmm.
because you never know what's going to happen the day of the audition or the day before the audition, and just being ready at whatever time, whenever, you know, 6 a.m., 10 a.m., 8 p.m., midnight, just run the excerpts and do a lot of mock auditions. Really, I mean, that's what I did, and I just try to live my life as normal as possible. Because think if you let it get into your mind too much about, oh, the audition is coming up, I'm not gonna hang out with my friends, I'm not gonna no, guys, I'm sorry, I won't be able to have a drink with you guys because I have the audition. I mean, a lot of people do that. I don't. I mean, I really need my friends, you know, like, social life, because that's a way to just, for example, leave all the audition preparation aside and just have time to yourself. I mean, it's really a balance, and audition preparation is that, actually, a balance. That's what I think about that. Yeah.
I love it. I think, like you said, everyone has their own ways of doing things and their own preferences. But I like what you said, because some people can get very extreme where they shut out the world. They don't talk to their family. They like will isolate themselves. They'll go like to a cabin in the woods and like do their focus there. And that's, you know, that works for a lot of people, and that's great. But it's nice to hear, you know, the opposite too, where you're just like, you tried to keep things the same. You have the work ethic, you're putting in the time, you're listening to the operas, you know, day in and day out. You're still going out with your friends, you're talking to your family, you're maintaining that balanced life. Like you're saying, everything is a balance. So what have you seen in your playing change since you've been playing with this amazing horn section, this amazing orchestra? Like, what has changed? Have you noticed things in your sound and your technique, the way you listen? Like, I'm sure, yes, it would be easy to say yes to all that, but like maybe what are some things you could share?
Well, it's a matter of really listening and adjusting quick, being able to adjust right away and to be sensitive about not only the orchestra, but about the singers, because in opera, it's merely a collaboration between the artists on stage and us in the pit. Just being able to, like step down and be able to support without covering the singers or the orchestra, because that I think playing opera makes you very flexible with a lot of things, and also to be more aware of mostly tempo changes and sound textures. I mean, that's something I would say that I'm more aware of right now. I played in symphony orchestras, like you know, pretty much my entire life before winning the Met. I actually played in the orchestra here in Costa Rica for 2 seasons as assistant and second horn. And we actually did an opera, but I wasn't part of it. So I just never got a chance to, to feel what that was all about. But yeah, I mean, just being able to stop looking at your part and just use your ears and try to fit into the texture of the voices on stage and the orchestra, and being able to be part of that without um, eliminating the connection of the voice and the orchestra. There has to be a balance. So I think being flexible is the what I can learn the most. What I learned the most about being in the band. Yeah.
That's
And
fantastic.
that transcribes into my playing also, like in my playing, going back to your questions, I just, like being able to play really soft too, like being able to really bring down your dynamic range, because as a brass player, you think, oh, you got to play loud here and there. And you wait for those moments, but also the other side of the story is like the tender moments, the sensitive moments. I mean, those are the ones that, they hide a mystery inside them. So you have to be able to be part of it without messing up. And and being able to play soft, but in a very musical way. That's still going on, like I'm still, I was practicing this morning, and I was practicing that because I wanted to be almost perfect. I mean, it's going to be really tough to play perfect, but that's my goal always,
Mm.
Yeah.
Great. Now, like you said, you've been doing so much. You were doing so much symphonic playing before getting this job with the opera, and with pieces. I know you guys have done, a lot of Wagner. Some of these operas, I imagine, with the intermissions, you're talking about you're at the hall for 5 hours, 6 hours, maybe even, for a Parsifal. Um, and going back to you're talking about balancing your life, how do you adjust to that when you know that your performances, you might have several performances during the week that are going to take up 5 or 6 hours, maybe you have a rehearsal on the same day. Have you had to find new ways to squeeze in practice, or overall has it been easy to adapt to that kind of schedule?
I mean, it hasn't been easy for sure. It may be easier for some people, but it's always a challenge. Once you get out of your comfort zone, like joining an orchestra, like for example, in New York Philharmonic, like with Ryan here and the Met, in my case, yeah, I mean, you have to really be mindful about what you need to practice, how you need to practice, and how much you need to practice it. I most of my practice sessions are mostly fundamentals, and mainly fundamentals, like doing the basic stuff, starting a note with a beautiful attack and in a forte dynamic, piano dynamic. But in some days, like you're there for a rehearsal in the morning, and I'm going to put an example of long days that we had with Yannick rehearsing Electra from 10:30 until 2:30, and then at night playing Parsifal. That was those days where, I mean, for horns, because I was playing both. I was playing Wagner tuba in Electra and horns. So I was going back and forth. Even though we use the same mouthpiece, it's just the feeling of the instrument is different. And then just being able to say, okay, I'm not gonna, play as loud in the Electra because at night I have to play Parsifal. I mean, you learn with the process. You know, the more you do it, the more comfortable and used you will get to that. But it's a matter of time, you know, like, and asking a lot, talking a lot with the people who have been in the orchestra for longer. And I remember just asking pretty much everyone in the brass section, hey, how you guys deal with this? And they were very kind enough to just talk to me and say, hey, do this, don't do that, try this, don't, never try that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's a collective learning experience, what you do with those kind of days.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
Ryan, I'm wondering if you might have any advice for anyone that's watching this that deals with performance anxiety or something like that. Do you have any advice? Is it something you get often, or if so, do you have any tips or things that you do that sort of help you focus, you know, before a performance or an audition?
Yeah, well, I'll sort of answer that in two ways because I think the way that I focus for auditions is a little bit different than the way I focus for performances. For auditions, I have never been shy about talking about beta blockers. I think it's something that helps a lot of people and is an option that I don't feel should be stigmatized in any way.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you spend, you know, like Hugo said, 3 months preparing for a single day of your life, doing everything you can, organizing your practice and making sure that you really have internalized all of this music, and then your physicality, your body, your mind sabotages you at that point, it really is a shame because you're not able to, you know, give a performance that is representative of your work and your abilities. You know, if you take a beta blocker, it could help with that. But on the other hand, why I don't feel like it's cheating, quote unquote, in any way, is that if you don't practice for 3 months and you take a beta blocker, you're not going to play any better in the audition. I mean, you know, it's just a fact. So beta blockers have been something that have helped me a lot with auditions. I don't take them as frequently for performances because one thing that for me makes me nervous is the setting of an audition. I mean, it's incredibly removed from what it feels like to play a concert, whether it's a recital or you know, an orchestral performance. It's a very unnatural way of making music, and you're sitting in a room on a dead silent stage, and there's all these people in the audience, whether they're behind a curtain or whether they're sitting in front of you. I still don't know which one makes it worse, but you know, it's I think it requires a different kind of focus for auditions. For performances, I guess my pre-concert routine involves making sure that I eat a lot of carbs and enough sugar. You know, one thing that I always hate, especially as a wind player, is the feeling of having low blood sugar or, you know, not enough fuel in your system, especially if it's going to be a long concert. And actually, it's funny, the few times that I've subbed with the Met, that issue has become so much more apparent to me. The last thing I played there, I think, was a Rosenkavalier, which is a pretty long opera. And, you know, I was not able to fully prepare myself physically before that. I had just come off a flight and I didn't have enough sleep and I hadn't really eaten anything and I needed to learn the entire opera that day, but that's a different story. But I really felt it, you know, around hour 2, you just feel yourself kind of fading and everything gets slower and it's harder to concentrate. And, you know, making sure you have enough fuel is one big thing for me. And then also I like to listen to non-classical music, just fun, you know, whether it's jazz or pop or whatever, when I'm walking to the hall to kind of get myself psyched up, like a workout playlist or something. But yeah, those are my little tips.
Great. And the last question I have for both of you, what's a bucket list piece, like a piece you haven't gotten to perform yet that's sort of, you've dreamt of it? What would that be?
Oh boy.
You can name 2 or 3 if that helps. If you need to narrow it down to a few, you can't quite get it to one.
Well, the first one that comes to mind is this Mahler 6. I love that symphony. It's I haven't gotten the chance to play it, but hopefully someday, you know, just I'm not in second piece. Oh man. let's give the chance to Ryan. Let me
All
think.
right. I have a few options, and I also think that this is one of the things that is so cool about being an orchestral musician is that there's so much repertoire. Um, I have not gotten the chance to play Beethoven 9 yet. I haven't gotten a chance to play Mahler 9. I haven't gotten a chance to play Mahler 2, Barber 1. And, you know, I won't even start with all of the operas that I hope I get to play before I die. Rosenkavalier was actually one of them. So I was really, really, really excited to get to play that. I played the suite, but not the entire opera. But there's just so much.
And then me, yeah, you know, you sounded great when, I mean, I don't know if we actually didn't talk that day. I saw you walking into the pit and talking to Elaine before the opera started, because I tend to go into the pit like an hour before, sometimes an hour and a half, and just have a warm up there. And because and I saw you guys. I mean, I was gonna go say hi. I always like to say hi to the new people who come to the orchestra as a sub, and but then I didn't want to mess with, because you guys, I was like, yeah, he didn't rehearse. I mean, he's just one shot. That's it. But you did
Yeah.
a good job, and now that we have the chance to talk right now, and yeah, I mean, another piece. Thanks for the reminder. Beethoven 9. I haven't played that piece, and it's just such a masterwork. You know, like so monumental, so many incredible things happened when that piece was premiered, you know, like including a chorus in the piece. And um, I don't know, it's just that piece that means so much to the world, not only to musicians, but to bring hope, to bring joy, to bring happiness and love. And I always like to think, you know, that some pieces are great because we think, oh, that's an amazing piece and I want to play it, so much fun. But there are also pieces that remind us of human values, and I like to always remember those kind of pieces and what is my relationship with that piece. And Beethoven 9 is that, you know, everyone knows it, and everyone knows what and why it was written for, you know. And
Absolutely. All right. Well, Hugo, Ryan, thank you so much for joining me today. It was so great to catch up, and can't wait to hear you guys make music in the future.